Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about You, Season 3, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I should be talking about something I should have been talking about all along, about just the continued nature of how unique this season is in comparison of, like, the fact is, when he's obsessed with someone, whether it be a Beck, whether it's Love, well, initially Love back in Season 2, before he found out everything about who she really is, that he never has any, like, he's not dating anyone else. He's made, like, that person his priority. So for him to be juggling all of that now with, like, because before it was all about proving, like, Marianne, you're not the one. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with you. Now it's like, now I understand why I'm so obsessed with you. There is a connection here. We're vibing. We're feeling it. You felt it too. And it's like being with a person that you're in love with. Well, you're not really, like, because all his love and admiration is towards Marianne and not Love. He's only staying with Love because it's like, right, I have to keep her okay so that, because Joe hasn't really thought of an end game, because it's like, what are you going to do? Leave her for, like, leave Love for Marianne? And it's if you do that, because you're worried, your main concern is like, right, I don't want Love to find out about us because we don't want a repeat of Natalie. Because he felt that way about Natalie, but then, like, what also ends up happening is he always finds out the truth about the women in his life that they're, like, not quite what he thought, and, like, the reactions to him isn't quite what he thought. Like, he found out about Natalie, like, wait, I was just some, like, like, I'm the boring neighbor you decided to, like, sleep with. But at least in this situation, he feels like the connection between him and Marianne is genuine, and it seems like the thing between him and Natalie was, like, more one-sided. Like, you know, most of these things are until he creates it into a circumstance where it is a reciprocated situation. But obviously, like, he's keeping things on, like, you know, it's like he's playing the role of not just a good husband, the best husband. He's staying on top of things. He's like, I've been immaculate. Granted, he's let things slip because it's like, yeah, he's been great on a level, but the problem is, Dottie gets in Love's head, because I love that Dottie says that line of, like, right, I should have known something was up with your father when 2 years into a relationship we stopped having anal. And Love is like, I don't need the details. I was like, whoa. But that started creeping into her head, because it's like, right, she's having relationships with the neighbor boy, that being Theo, but, like, her and Joe, like, haven't really had a lot of sex recently, so it made her kind of worried. And so probably also thinking about, because there's a part of Love that's sad about her parents' relationship. It's a good thing they were breaking apart, but it's sad knowing that it ended. It's because it's such a constant in your life, and then just have it, because it's the last, like, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's like the last semblance of their family being okay, that at least there's some form of normalcy, that their family isn't, for lack of a better term, completely and utterly fucked up, like any other family. Like, every family has their own dysfunctions. Like, everyone has their issues. But I think for Love, like, she's had this image of just what that family is, and now that her mom and dad are splitting up, which her mom is taking it hard. Understandably, it's like he's taking everything, including the vineyard. Like, there was something that she started that is like, he's taken. Now he's taking the vineyard. It's just kind of like everything's going wrong. And she thought at the very least she would have had her daughter that she can confide in and kind of talk to, but it's like, nope, she's drinking a lot. Like, we don't see Dottie like this. Like, for the past couple episodes, it's like, yo, Dottie's been, like, I think because this divorce has been coming up, and she's kind of been distracting herself a little bit with it, but still. You also have Joe, while Love's doing all this, she's actually even doing the catering for the fundraiser, which initially, like, Joe was using that as an excuse of, like, oh, I've got this fundraiser thing, why don't you just go do what you have to? Because he's also playing a little bit of the role of the jealousy. Like, I love that he's like, yeah, if I didn't have you, Marianne, like, this would be pretty fucked up what's happening right now, because he sees that Love is giving Theo attention, like, texting me, like, oh, I didn't know you were there watching me, like, you know, strip down to my bra. But it's like, he realizes on the level, he's like, right, there's a lot more going on. Like, I think Das lady protests a lot, because you're trying to pretend that she's like, yeah, but, like, this whole interest in Theo runs a lot deeper than she makes it seem like, because the way Theo looks at her is honestly, she wants those feelings in it. She made it clear early on. It's like when they were talking to Chandra, their therapist, she wants that from Joe, but she's getting it from someone else. And I think it fills that void a little bit of, like, what Joe's not giving her, someone else is. that attention, finding her sexy and attractive and just can't stop thinking about her. It's like Joe's been good on the husband front, just not in the sex department, but Joe even realizes it later on. He's like, right, I was so obsessed with you and I forgot about this. Like, how could I be so careless with this angle to it? Because I love that he tries to sabotage Ryan by making him like relapse and stuff like that. So he gets some Adderall. Carrie hooks him up with a dude, which that dude's like, don't worry about my age. But I like that the kid's like, like I am medicating the community while also making sure it's a place that, like the police won't come sniffing around. Also, I'm planning on giving this money to play an organization for like, was it NAMI? It was like basically mental illness and stuff like that. It's like, and even Joe being like, wow, this next generation might be the one that ends up saving us. So, and I love it's like almost over $1,200 for the drugs and stuff he needs. But it's like, right, luckily that you're worth it, Marion. So he goes in there, messes with Ryan's stuff, finds a picture of Marion, and so it's like, right. I love that he's like, right, I have to leave these in his possession, but they won't stay there for long. And when Love tries to like sex things up because she talked to Sherry, it's like, that's not just a front anymore. Like, her and Sherry are legitimately becoming friends in a weird way. Maybe it's a little bit of Love backpedaling into the life that she kind of left behind when they came here for a fresh start. But, like, Sherry sent her over something about, like, oh yeah, like, kind of spice, like, sexing things up a little bit. And so she tries to, like, do her thing, but, like, Joe's like, I don't have anything left. I gave it all to you. And because he jacked off to a picture of Marion from Ryan's book. So that's wild. So Joe feels like he had to make it up to her. And so, well, Love ended up having sex with Theo, but then immediately, like, sometime afterwards, Joe surprised her, and you could tell she was feeling, like, guilty about it. Like, oh, here he is being like, oh, the loving husband, giving this great gift and everything. It's like, oh, he's like, do you like it? She's like, no, I love it. And got him like those donut things. And he's like, yeah, the way you look when you bite into them and stuff like that. It's just like, he was saying all the right things. Like, once again, he said it himself. He's like, it's a game and I'm pretty damn good at it. It's like, yo, it's so twisted. It's so effed up. It's so messed up. Yeah, it's so funny and crazy and wild to see this unfold and develop the way it is. So I just thought that was so interesting, how that's like playing out, like the dual sides to this whole thing. And so Love is trying to like appease her mom, who's like going deep off the edge. I mean, speaking of Dottie going off the edge, holy crap, like picking up Henry early, well, because for her, it's like, right, it's like, you're not going to keep my grandson away from me, little bitch. It's like, wow, you've never heard her really, like, be so, like, bleh towards Love, because I think it's the thing of, whereas a lot of people, at least Joe was like, oh, I saw Love for who she was and kind of accepted her. Obviously, he's backpedaling on that because he sees, like, the darkness in her, but there's the whole situation with Dottie, like, not liking what she's seen and what she knows of Love. And so 40... like Henry, that's why he's 40 and everything, because it's like, oh, he's a reincarnation of 40. And the moment she's talking all that crazy talk while she's in the drive-thru, it's like, oh, this isn't a baby. This is my son, 40, reincarnated. And the lady, Stephanie, giving her stuff is like, sure. She's like, I'll give you $300 for a lighter. She's like, yeah, I thought Stephanie was going to be like, oh, let me call the cops or something. This lady seems a little deranged. Like, maybe this baby isn't safe. I thought she was going to step in like that. No, she didn't. She proceeded to burn down the vineyard. It's like, fuck you. If I can't have it, you're not going to, I'm definitely not going to let you have it. So it's like, why? Wow, she went super far off the deep end. So tying that all in, because let's circle back a little bit. Love doing the fundraiser and everything, and Joe's trying to do his best to keep them separated. Obviously, he's spending time with Marion and her daughter, because it's like, he's like, yeah, I was thinking about you all week, and he's like, let me be bold. He's like, oh, all right, let me step back, let me not try to push you too much into a corner. But she's like, yeah, I was thinking about you a lot too. But at first, it seemed like her daughter, Juliet, didn't like him at all. I was like, oh, maybe on some level, she's sensing that you're not a good person. Maybe that's it. But I'm also thinking, like, right, it's like she has her mom and dad, so like you're kind of that third party interfering. But they go all hanging out, and the moment he played I Spy with her, it's like, oh, it's something with him, and she's like, mommy, and it's like, it seemed like that was in a good place. But obviously she had talked about the fact is that Ryan was going to do everything he could. Like, she was paranoid about him watching her because he's going to be donating money to the library, and it's just showing, like, it's for him to show, like, no matter where you go, even work, you're not out of my reach. I can always get to you. So I know I've been meaning to. I have to look into this. Is that the dude from, like, he's been in other things, but I will always, like, what was that show? Was it just Greek? I don't remember. It was a show on ABC Family about fraternities and sororities. God, Kelsey Grammer's daughter was on the show. If I remember correctly, Spencer. I was trying to remember her name. Spencer Grammer. I believe that's, like, I think that was the first thing I ever saw her in. This is like a show from, like, the mid-2000s. It ran for, like, 3 seasons. But I want to say that's that dude, because back then he had longer hair. But I want to say that might be him. It might not be the same person. Like, the actor who played Ryan, he just seems familiar. I have to look into it, whether that's... I might be full of crap on that. But I can't remember what that show is called. I want to say it might just be called Greek. Not, what was it, Gleek? It might have been Gleek. It was. I think it had a weird name. How about to call it Gleek? And I was like, no, that's not the right show. But it's like, maybe Greek or Gleek. I don't remember what it was. But regardless... the point is, like, Joe's trying to do everything to ensure they're happily ever after. He's screwing with Ryan's life every little bit away, tainting his, like, supplements and, like, everything that he's drinking, plus making sure that knocking his old routine off. And they ultimately show up at the party, which obviously Joe was like, okay, let me keep love and you away from each other, and they immediately get put together by Sherry to work on something. And then it's kind of like oh, it's so nice to meet you. It's like, oh, Joe hasn't talked about you. He's like, yeah, all these late shifts. She's like, yeah, I'm hanging out with someone new in my life, so Joe's covering for me. But it's like Love and, you know, Marion. It's like there's something there. Like, Marion felt guilty, and she covered really quickly about the late nights and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, the late shifts. Yeah, sorry about that. You know, I can be like I'm sure Joe told you about me being kind of a bit of a controlling boss, but it's like they're hitting it off. Love's not suspecting anything. So I thought that was incredible and really interesting. But obviously later on, Marion admits, like, she feels bad because it's like, your marriage isn't in a bad place. Your wife is a lovely person. He's like, yeah, if you forget about, like, because you're unaware of, like, her mild habit to kind of, like, lose control and kill people, like, all that she's kind of capable of. So, but yeah, the riot situation, Joe's like, wait, why is he here? Why is he fine? I was like, even I was surprised about it. I was like, part of me's like, is he going to show up fine? Like, how did he do that? It's like, oh, because that SOB has never been sober. He's constantly dosing himself to the point that it's like, right, Joe's like, I didn't calculate for this. The SOB's like intolerant to super high. So me, like, adding more to it, it's like adding nothing to, like, it's like adding sugar to something that's already sugary. It's, you know, it's like if you're, that's a terrible analogy. I'm going to drop it. Regardless, the point is, like, it's not going to faze him in one bit. And he found out about Marion because their daughter told Ryan about Marion and Joe hanging out, which he tried to create the perfect situation. Like, oh, here I am with Henry, you with your daughter. Like, oh, you must be feeling the fact is that this is almost a perfect family moment. But with that, later on, Marion saying, like, yeah, Ryan's going to try and use that against her, and he can try and make it seem worse off than it is. It's like they're just colleagues, and she's like, yeah, you know, we're not just that, we're more than that, but it doesn't matter because Ryan is going to be able to spin it into whatever he wants to. And obviously, like, because it's important to her sobriety, because she's clean as well, like, well, more so than Ryan is, but she wants to, like, have everything above board, like, getting involved with someone that's married, like, being a homewrecker. It's like, for her, it's like, that's just me backpedaling back into old habits. Ironic, Joe, when he's mixed up with you, is him going back into old habits to an extent. Joe 1.0, 2.0, and I guess I'd say it's 2.0 of the 1.0 of who Joe was before. He's kind of an amalgamation of that learning and adapting of, like, yeah, I'm going to do what I did as 1.0 while also changing up my way of handling things. Like, so there's no more Natalie box to be found by Love. So she wants things to kind of, like, there's no, like, because Joe wants there be a way around all this, because he gets where she's coming from and totally understands, but he wants there to be a way to make it work. But it's like, currently, she's like, there's no way to make it work, so. at the party, Love did get approached by Sherry, who was like, oh, didn't you read the rest of the blog? It's like my secret sex blog. And she's hinting to like, we have a polyamorous relationship. It's like, oh, we have an open marriage. And it's like, me and Carrie would love it if you and Joe got in a mix. And it's like, I don't think that's going to go the way Joe would probably hope it would. I think it's leaning more towards like, because it seems like Sherry's like, I don't know. I don't think she has a thing for Joe. I think she has a thing for Love. Like the way she was like, yo, look like you creeping up on Love. Like, yo, I think in the moment Love walks away, she's just almost like, so close to getting you in, like, betwixt my fingers. Because it seemed like she was like, I was like, wow, man, there's so much going on in the suburbs of this town, dude. I love it. So scandalous. But yeah, it seems like more so like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's just interested in having sex with them as a couple in general, but I feel like, it seems like she's leaning more towards, like, Love. It's like, maybe it's already been bubbling beneath the surface, but yeah. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, but maybe it's the way I think it is. Maybe it's not. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how that ultimately plays out, but, Joe, upon hearing about this from Love, because she brings it up, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a joke. But then, like, Joe's like, whoa. I mean, I'd rather, like, take a chainsaw to my, like, thighs or something, but, I mean, hopefully it's not going that extreme. But it's like, right, if we can start off with Carrie and Sherry, then maybe eventually Love will be open to us, like, opening the doors a little bit. Because even she's like, yeah, might as well start off with people we're closer to so it's less uncomfortable of, like, yeah, we can expand and try it out. And so he's like, right, I'm ready to do this. Not for her, though, but for Marion, because it's like, right, this means we can find a way for this to be healthy and okay without it being an issue, without you having to worry about, right, you're wrecking a marriage. It's like, no, like, our marriage is open. So, which obviously an open marriage comes with, like, you both have to be secure in where you are to make something like that happen. I don't think I'm ever a secure enough person to ever be in a situation like that. I mean, who knows what the future may hold, but I don't think I would be. Just where I am right now in my life, I don't think that's possible, because I get jealous sometimes, and I just be like, oh, adding in, like, I don't think I'd be okay with, like, oh, like, my significant other, like, doing stuff with someone else. I don't know. I know me enough, But like I said, maybe I'll get to a point in my life where I'm, like, content enough, because it's like, oh no, like, because once again it's Joe being like, no, don't worry, I trust you, we can do this. So once again having his ulterior motives, which interestingly tying that all back to like Dottie, because like Joe was about to snap at Dottie, but Love's just kind of like calm and just cool and collected, being like, Joe's gonna drop you off to like rehab, and you are never gonna see your grandson again, you're never gonna see me again. And it's like, you weren't even there for 40. I had to raise him. And it's like, yeah, but you're like, essentially she was getting at like, yeah, because he was broken. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but I guess for her, it still doesn't change the fact that you weren't like the best example of a mother to begin with. And I love Dottie's like, you can say all that, you can like judge me and stuff like that, but you were me 20 years ago saying like, this could easily be you. Like, we'll see that look on your face when you lose everything, which could be foreshadowing, because about Henry, Joe, when the whole kit and caboodle gets like all brought to light later on. I mean, especially with everything with Matthew, which we'll get to in a second, it could just be that like everything could be lost. So we'll see. With this whole Marion thing, I'm definitely feeling like we're going towards the ending that I figured we were, and I hope we don't. I don't want it to come down to that, because I actually I'm rooting for Joe and Love. I actually want them to kind of rekindle everything and work out, like, because every marriage has its issues, but we'll see. Because my thought had been, I might have included in my thoughts and theories, I might even cut it out. I don't remember. I think I might have cut it out, but I brought it up during the early reviews. I was wondering from the very beginning, I've been like, I hope Joe doesn't kill Love at the end of the season. And I get the feeling that might be the case. That just might be the case. I mean, because notice, we have had a trend of, like, every significant other connected to him has died. He kills Beck at the end of season 1. Love killed Candace, but that's kind of like 2 for 2 of the women in your life. Granted, we don't know about your mom. We don't know about Fiona. Like, granted, those are different things, but still. So I'm almost thinking, like, near the end, maybe Love is too. I hope not. Because, like I said, in a weird way, I do like them being together, because they're both, there is something underlining there. They might not be soulmates, but it comes down to who you choose, and they're kind of not currently choosing each other. She kind of has chosen Joe, but his mind is preoccupied elsewhere, because he's chosen his partner in Marion. So, being who you are and everything, I don't see that ending well, because Love can accept you, has accepted you for all that you are. Granted, she doesn't know that you're back to your old game again. And which, speaking of game, I love that Dottie's like, right, because he's like, oh, you're going to drive a wedge between me and Love. It's like, do you know what happened to her first husband, James? It's like, yeah, he had cancer and died. It's like, well, yeah, well, he was in remission. He tried to get a divorce with Love, and then he died. And it's like, wait, you don't think? And she's like, I don't have any proof, but I think, and she's like, I just had to warn you because I didn't want to take the chance that something might happen to you. Because essentially she's like, you're a good father, you're a good husband, you're loyal, but Love's only loyalty is to herself. And I'm like, yo. And he's like, right, while I've been playing this game, I got so focused on it that I forgot that at the end of the day, I'm fair game too, because you're forgetting just how much of an apex predator Love can be in a situation. So it's like, yeah, I'm on the menu just as much as Marion is. So I kind of let that slip my mind. Hence why he's even more so all about like, hey, let's open marriage thing. Let's try it out. Obviously, Matthew got help from a hacker he knew, because basically he needs her to compile because he's looking at so many cameras, because he's got access to the cameras in the entire town, and he needs help like compiling it and being able to fully track down everyone's movements. And she's able to help him, but even before she left, she's like, hey, I just want you to know, your dad is not okay, Theo. You really need to get him some help. And so as we see, the person he's next focused on the list, he's crossed out a lot of names, is Love. And at one point we see it shift over to the bakery. Now I'm curious what he saw on that camera. Was it, because it's once again, looking at the recap, because I didn't pay as much attention to this as I should have the episode beforehand, but next to Love's name on the board was last person to meet with Natalie. So I'm curious, is what he saw supposed to be when Natalie supposedly disappeared? Could have been when Joe got into the car, but to be fair, it's focused on Love, so it's probably before Joe cleaned everything up, it was probably Love leaving the bake. So Matthew's got his eyes on her, and even present day, he's got a look on the bakery as they're leaving hand in hand, and you're like, okay, so issues are arising they didn't account for. I mean, granted, they are aware of what he's up to. Granted, they weren't able to get the information they needed. Because I love that Love is kind of manipulating Theo. He's like, oh, you're kind of sending mixed signals. We had sex, then you're like, not again, but then you strip it in front of me. And now it's like, oh, why do you need me to spy on my dad? She's like, because of my family. I don't want anyone taking that family, using my information. I know it doesn't make any sense. I just don't want anyone knowing anything about my family. My family's had to go through the scrutiny. My parents are going through a divorce and stuff like that. It's like, Love is playing that kid like a fiddle, even to the point she's grabbing his arm, and he's almost like, I'll do anything for you, Love. It's like, but I think that devotion and obsession, that Joe gets about other people, once again, Love wants that from other people. She wants that specifically from Joe, but she's getting it from Theo. So it's an interesting angle that the show has kind of created. So it's definitely going to get really, really interesting. Obviously round one between Ryan and Joe didn't work out. Joe lost that, but he's like, nah, this isn't over. I'm coming after you, you bastard. So, and obviously, he's shown himself to be the bully that he is. So, and Joe's in his crosshairs now too. So, they're on crosshairs with everyone from different, Matthew. Love is in Matthew's crosshairs, and Ryan's got Joe in his. So. And then there's the whole Theo situation with Love, and then there's the whole Marion situation. It's so interesting that they're in the middle of certain dynamics and relationships, that one person in that dynamic relationship wants to kill them, and another person in that dynamic relationship wants to be with them. So it's interesting how that works, how their stories are so neatly and complicatedly, obviously, but so parallel to each other. And that's not by accident. Obviously, that was constructed on purpose, interestingly enough. But I'm so excited to ultimately see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.